should we even be afraid of failure? So the failure can be a stepping stone if we understand that it's created by our own limitations.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Behind Their Success podcast. I am Peyton Squires, the host, and this morning we have on Oksana Lovich. Oksana has transformed her life through the study of application of self-actualization techniques, which she now integrates into a powerful system to help others unlock their true potential. She is the author of Abundance, A Fulfilled Path to Success, a guide to achieving personal transformation through balanced living across all aspects of life. Oksana's approach combines ancient wisdom with modern techniques, inspiring individuals to bridge the gap between where they are and where they want to be. Good morning, Oksana. Welcome on the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely, Oksana. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
I'm a transformational coach. I'm an author. I also recently launched a new online course. And I think my purpose is to transform people through various things that I do. But for the last 7 years, I was concentrating on finishing my book, which I published just a few months ago. And I was very proud to achieve amazing results for that.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I had a very challenging childhood, and my whole life, I would say, since I was like 16 or 14, I was looking for the answers to heal myself. I was born in a very successful family, so I also knew that money do not always solve all the problems. So I already was aware about that. And I was looking for fulfillment. Thankfully, because my subconscious beliefs were so strong, I was governed by powerful beliefs about wealth and prosperity. So I was able to create success in any industry I went to. Because in Russia, I went into acting and I became successful. I started doing ballroom dancing. I became successful. I came to America. I became successful at everything I was doing. But that inner peace was just missing in my heart. And I was feeling worse and worse, honestly, the time went on, because I was seeing a lot of achievements, but they brought nothing but emptiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started searching. That's when I went on a spiritual journey. I went to Mount Shasta. I literally started living with hippies and Native American people. And what I realized that there was a balance that was missing. Like a lot of rich people, they just achieve so much, but then they don't meditate and they don't work on the inner self.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in a consistent need for more and more. So they're never satisfied. And then I've met hippies. They're good people, but they meditate all the time. But then they absolutely don't do any work.
Right.
And I'm also struggling. They ask me for money all the time.
Yeah.
And that's when I discovered the balance. I was like, oh my goodness, there is a balance. Okay. And then when I started going into my heart for more answers, I realized that it's about ultimately transforming all 7 areas of life so that we become like a musical instrument, which sounds harmonically. What I mean, it's like if we'd take like one string of the musical instrument is out of tune, it no longer sounds harmonically. And I've also realized that once you transform and master 7 areas of life, you just create success with much more ease, because your intention changes like to the higher purpose, and you start enjoying the journey a lot more than the destination, and you create powerful relationship with yourself, and you have a completely different view of yourself. So you no longer do it to prove that you're successful,
Mm-hmm.
but because you would like to create something in this world. And that is when you're no longer living in your mind and struggling in the inner conflict or being too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what motivated me to write the book. And that was my own journey. And I've also seen the transformation in the people that I worked with. So I was so excited to share this knowledge.
I kind of like the contrast you gave there of your typical American entrepreneur that's kind of always striving and whatnot and achieving, but maybe not have that fulfillment. But then on the other end of the extreme, you said you hung out with maybe some of these native peoples that They have a lot of fulfillment and whatnot, but they're not necessarily doing the achievement. But when you were saying that, it kind of made me think of just kind of like the biblical phrase of, faith without works is dead. I mean, you got to have both, really. Like you got to have the works, but you also got to have the faith, right? Both really are a balance in some capacity to kind of achieve what you want to achieve.
Absolutely. And it's actually like we can see it in any other area. For example, my book is based on 7 areas of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the area is the area of relationship. For example, some people also invest so much time into becoming successful in one area, maybe even in the area of spirituality, but then they don't have a fulfilling relationship. Or, for example, some people concentrate so much on relationship that they dismiss their health. So that's why I say all the areas of life are just so essential, because once you see the interconnectedness of them, you will see how much easier it is to not only live life happily, right, but also create success in any area, truly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, especially in the entrepreneur type space, you see divorce rates are much higher than they are in non entrepreneur, type people, right? People that aren't, these high driving type business type people. But entrepreneurs get so obsessed about their baby and their business and all those types of things that, it, and in many situations, kind of becomes the new mistress. And, you'll see family life fall off. But like you were saying there, every area of your life affects every other area of your life. There is no like standalone areas. So to really have that peaceful, rounded life, you can't ignore any area.
It doesn't mean, though, that you should stay with somebody forever,
Sure.
because there are some situations that, life is long and beautiful, but we grow and evolve. So some relationships may not be necessarily like serving you your whole entire life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what is very important when I talk about relationship, it's how you feel about yourself. So, for example, the inner relationship often reflects your outer relationship. So, let's say your marriage ended horribly. Let's say like there were so many conflicts and disagreements. And if you just simply switch to a different relationship without healing your inner self, then you may easily attract a very similar partner.
Yep.
So inner self is very essential. So like when you end the relationship, right, and you end the relationship with understanding that, oh my goodness, I've learned so much. Now I love myself. I would never allow anything like this in my life. If it's needed, I'll take a whole year off, but I'm gonna work on my inner self so that I don't attract people like this who mistreat me so badly, who disrespect me, or on and on, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's better to finish in a peaceful way. That is when you are growing and expanding your relationship with yourself. And that is when you can attract a relationship that can even be forever if you would like to have it, because a healthy heart attracts another healthy heart. And when two healthy hearts come together, that's where we see beautiful, a fulfilling, harmonic relationship.
Yeah, and you're right. It starts with the inner work, right? It starts with knowing yourself to the best degree possible, because that allows you to show up and be the best version of yourself for everybody else. But you're right. Relationships change, people change. You bring together two people, they're growing and hopefully growing together and growing in the same direction. But that's not always the case. And you're right. Relationships, whether it's your significant other or even friendships or whatnot, they need evaluated, right? Like, is when I'm around this person, does this person make me better or worse, right? Like, do they bring my stats up? Am I a better person? Am I, a better person in all these different areas when I'm around them? Do they challenge me, or do I actually play down when I'm around them, right? Do their habits actually bring mine down? So just being able to like almost ruthlessly evaluate your relationships, and it's not to be mean or cut people out of your life necessarily, but it's being around people that make you better, right?
Yes, because, for example, I also noticed that the relationship is your greatest school of life. Because when in life we have a great goal and a great purpose, like the more that we desire to accomplish, the more challenges we sometimes attract into our life,
Mhm.
because those challenges are showing our limitations. And what can be better than your relationship? Because if you feel triggered, or if anybody feels triggered in relationship, this is a clear indicator of any type of limitations. And I would say that I would leave the relationship when, of course, I see that I'm devalued, but I would actually work on the triggers first, if it's possible, and leave if the relationship doesn't serve, as a peaceful person. Because the relationship can also be the greatest school of life. Because if you learn how to be calm and peaceful when something is not going your way, oh my goodness, you're halfway to enlightenment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah.
70% actually.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So, Oksana, tell us a little bit more of your history. You said you kind of had a challenging childhood that's kind of led to where you're at there. Like any big kind of lessons you learned along the way there, or anything you want to share along that lines?
So as I mentioned, like I grew up in a very successful family. So in times when in Russia people were standing in line, I was eating black caviar.
Mhm.
So I definitely got like really powerful beliefs about success. I never thought about uh, not being able to even manifest it. Like it was normal.
Mhm.
However, my father passed away, my mother passed away. I was all over the place, going from one relative to another, then started using drugs. Like, honestly, my teenage years, they were absolutely not good, because I wasn't feeling good about myself, because my father was the most important person
Sure.
in my life at that time. So deep inside, I developed a strongly limiting belief that I was not enough. So something was wrong with me. And honestly, after that point, I was attracting people who mistreated me. I attracted people who are abusive to me, like all types of things. I did not see my own beauty. So I consistently attracted people who played on my insecurities. So until I realized, wow, I was governed by limiting beliefs. So I started healing myself intensively with different hypnotherapists, with different therapists. I started going to Reiki sessions and cognitive behavioral therapy practitioners. Oh my goodness, I attended so many classes and events. I would probably attend them like 3 times a week, because I was in search to finding inner peace. And guess what? It started working.
Mhm.
I started feeling so much better. I started feeling good about myself. And that is when I knew that there was even more to go. So after I discovered those glimpses of inner peace, that glimpse of inner peace motivated me to continuously searching for more and more expansion. You know what I mean? Like I believe that the journey of life, it's a consistent growth, but those inner, like the glimpses of inner peace motivated me towards this path.
Yeah, that's awesome. Along this journey and different things you've done, what would you credit as the best skill that you have that's kind of led to your success?
Well, I'm very grateful to be born in such a great family at the same time,
Mhm.
right? Because my father, he taught me, even though he passed away when I was 5, but he taught me subconsciously about success, and he taught me what was possible. Then I was growing up with my sister, and she became successful on her own. But she also showed me that a woman can be absolutely successful, which is very uncommon in Russia, by the way. So that's why I moved to America, because I knew I had such a big goal and dream. But I think that education that I received was vital. So I was pushed into many different classes. I had such a strong self discipline that my sister was creating for myself. So I was punished anytime I did not pass an exam, or I did not do well with my private tutor. Plus, I had to go to sport. So, like, my day was completely busy from morning to night. And I remember when I was a little girl, I hated it. I hated my sister. That's why I actually ran away from home, because I felt like I was in a prison. But, but later in life, I realized that that discipline that I was taught, even though I had a challenging childhood with abuse and humiliation, helped me to commit to spiritual work so wholeheartedly that I was able to heal myself. Because even if you know where to go, if you don't put into discipline, I don't think it's going to work. So I think that discipline was the key for my healing and for all the successes that I've created and for all the accomplishments, truly.
Yeah, impulse control, the discipline you talk about there, right? That is one of the certainly key personality traits of people that are quote unquote successful, or I guess, or achieve high things, is that they have good discipline, good ability to control their impulses when they need to, right? To just kind of show up every day and do the work like you've done, on your spiritual journey. You've shown up every single day and done the work, right? And that is the way to let that consistently compound over time. And that's how you get these real returns and gain a whole lot of ground on your journey. I had the realization this morning that 4 years ago today was the first day that I kind of walked into the gym. I have an athletic background or whatnot, but this is the first time that I started working out and I just never stopped, right? And now it's 4 years in, and it's amazing like how far you can get in 4 years. Like if you show up and watch me in the gym, you wouldn't think anything significant, right? Like I just do a workout just like everybody else. But what separates me is I've done it for 4 years, like 5 to 6 days a week for 4 years. And that compounding over time gets you those really outsized gains.
Absolutely, because it's a cumulative effect of everything,
Yeah.
that makes you who you are.
Yeah.
And the same is actually with the negative side.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say like somebody spend too much energy into negative thoughts or procrastination. So they're strengthening that particular pattern.
Yeah.
So advice for the audience would always be like, if you have any negative pattern that you're investing too much of your energy, ask yourself a question: how would you like to see yourself in the next 5 years? And if you continue putting that energy into that pattern, you're strengthening it and it's becoming worse. So I think it's time to change. 2025,
there we
it's
go.
the time.
Yeah, that's a great point. It works the same way to the negative, right? And there's some power in this and understanding that like success and failures, both sides are generally not fast process. So even like major failures, they're almost generally not this overnight thing. They're like what you just described, right? They're this little thing, this little lack of attention, these little things that compound over time that lead to that failure, right? So it's the same in the negative as it is to the positive, that it's usually these little things accumulating over time that lead to these massive successes or failures, right?
Absolutely. And again, like failures can be seen as the greatest stepping stones, because I know so many people. For example, there are people that I've seen that had failures in their life and they quit. I've seen people who had failures in their life, like literally, it's my friend. He went even higher in his success in his business. Why? Because there are two different perspectives, right? One person who failed and has like limiting subconscious beliefs, he thinks, oh my goodness, there is no way I can ever rise. I'm much older now and the opportunities are different. Like when I speak to them, I can hear the patterns, right? And the other person say, oh my God, I need to improve myself so much so that I never fail anymore.
Yeah.
So that they transform their inner and outer self. Like inner, it's how you feel about yourself, and also their services, their business. What can I do that I no longer put myself in that situation? And I was thinking, should we even be afraid of failure? So the failure can be a stepping stone if we understand that it's created by our own limitations,
Yeah. No, failure, it sucks, or at least you think it sucks. But, the further you get away from your quote unquote failure, you realize how necessary it was, right? Like you said, a stepping stone. I've had some things going on in business this year that I would consider, I consider maybe this year was one of the most challenging years I've ever had in business. And, remarkably, I say that every year because I'm constantly pushing the envelopes, right? So it's always the most challenging year. But, I say that, but I can already look back to stuff that happened, say, 6 months ago. And even from today's perspective, see why that needed to happen, even though I hated it in the moment.
I understand. Yes. And again, the more that you desire in life, the more that you yourself will see those challenges, because those challenges exactly what expand you.
Hmm.
And I would say, like, when I see the challenges in my life at this moment, I actually celebrate them.
Hmm.
What can I expand in? And it's just a perception. I know it sounds unreal, but it's possible, because the more that you start celebrating challenges and saying to yourself, oh my goodness, what can I improve? Let me go even deeper within. There is a limitation I'm holding. I even envision myself as a new me, right? And that is when you start realizing that that challenge is just expanding you into the new level.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard the analogy used one time. It's like, when you go mountain climbing, right? Like they'll climb up so far the mountain, then they'll kind of camp out. And they do that. You can't just shoot up the mountain, right? Because your body has to adjust to like the less and less oxygen as you go up. But like I heard that just, that analogy used in like business or growing your business or just growing yourself and stretching yourself. It's like, once you jump to a new level, there is going to be all these stresses and problems because you're not used to like breathing at that level, right? And it just takes a little time under that new stress level for you to adapt and your body to get to normal. That, once you're at that higher level on the mountain, after a little bit of time, well, that just becomes normal, right? And then once you get normal there, well, you can push it up a little bit higher, and then eventually that'll become normal, right? And that is just the path of growth and stretching yourself.
That's so true, because I was watching a lady going up the mountain. So I know it's actually quite challenging. And I was also thinking about how rising, yes, takes time, dedication, adaptation, and learning new skills. It's very true.
Yeah. Kind of looking back, what would you credit as the best decision you've made along your journey?
Oh, well, of course, I think the best decision I've ever made is following my intuition when I had an intuitive guidance to write a book. Because when I decided to write a book, a lot of people told me I could not, because they told me you came from Russia, um, you didn't speak English like an American person. So
Mhm.
a lot of people were like kind of against that, and I still did it. So, and I think you should always listen to your heart, and do not listen to a lot of people, because a lot of people will give an advice from a limiting point,
Yeah.
limited point of view, limited perception. So I think the best decision I made, that I did not listen to anyone, and I committed to the book.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and it's a lot of those people in your life that maybe were giving your advice. They weren't necessarily even trying to be mean or whatnot. They just like as you said, they had a lowered perception. And if anything, a lot of them like they may be giving you advice because they're trying to protect you, right? They think they're trying to protect you and look out for your best interest, but they just don't see the vision, right? They just don't understand what's going on there. So it's important when you're getting advice always to really understand where that advice is coming from. Like, how qualified is that person to give you that advice? And not like, like you said, not just take that as the truth just because it's coming from some loving person. It doesn't necessarily make it right.
But do you know how many dreams are crushed because people listen to somebody's
Hmm.
advice?
Yep.
I've heard it many times, like some people just don't even go to ballroom dancing because somebody told them that they're like too short or their body isn't appropriate. So I always say that that's why better not to even share certain desires before they start showing some results. Sometimes you have to be careful who you share it with. And I'm very expressive person, so when I start doing something, I share with the whole world. So now I became a little different. Now, like when I was creating a course, just few people knew about that. And once the course was launched, I told a lot of people because it was all over already, internet. And I realized that sometimes better to keep certain things to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Or just be aware, right? Like say even, when it's your mother telling you, hey, you shouldn't do this or whatnot. Well, maybe your mom doesn't know about ballroom dancing or whatnot. Like just be careful about who you're actually taking that advice
Because see, when you share something and some closest people to you, they don't believe in you, you may be a very strong and powerful person, but unconsciously you start having those thoughts. Oh my goodness, am I able to create this beautiful project? Will it be successful? Will I lose my time? So you start having those negative thoughts, right? And every time you have those negative thoughts, you literally like sending your energy into those outcomes. So you kind of create a small possibility, and it can become a big possibility if you continue doubting yourself. And it's very difficult to stay certain about success, right?
Mhm.
In this world. So I would say do everything that keeps you feel certain that you will achieve anything you desire, because the certainty is the energy of manifestation. And doubt, every time you doubt, every time you fear, you're going just a little lower. It doesn't mean you cannot go up again, but you're just prolonging your path. And people who are completely certain, that's the energy of fast and easy manifestation, because when you're certain, you also start receiving ideas, you start receiving motivation, inspiration, the energy, and all the resources to accomplish your goal faster. But when you doubt, you start attracting circumstances that kind of like slow you down. So that's why I say better to maybe not share in the beginning with way too many people, because it can unconsciously slow down the process, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Weirdly enough, so I have a background as a CPA and analytical type person. So, many people would assume like I'm not into this manifestation type stuff. And I would say definitely in younger years, I would see it more of like this woo-woo magical type thing, but it's not that. It's not that at all. And I'm very much into visualizations. um,
Visualization.
and I read mine every single morning, before I go to the gym. And it's the quote I kind of read to myself every single day is what you envision in detail with emotion is what shows up in your life. Every morning, I constantly am reading to myself what exactly I want in my life. And that keeps me on track in chasing that.
That's so awesome. That's very awesome.
So, question for you, Oksana. Looking back at say teenage you, what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Well, I would give myself an advice to suffer less, because I was completely heartbroken.
Mhm.
So everything that happened in my life felt like a mess. But at the same time, I think that's exactly what motivated me to search for the solution to heal my pain. But when I was a teenager, I was just so heartbroken, and so many horrible things were happening every week because my state was just so dark. And honestly, I'm really grateful that I am even alive, because the way I was at my teenage years, it was quite unsafe as well,
Mhm.
like the way I perceived life. And but thankfully, I think that we're always protected and divinely guided. I do feel strongly. I do feel that whatever is given to us, it's exactly what we can handle
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, but for some individuals, because there is definitely karma, and there are certain things that we cannot change. Like for example, when my parents passed away, I do believe we kind of maybe choose it ahead of time. But I do believe that there is like a divine protection of our soul. And if we are destined to awaken and be doing well, I think that no matter how much we suffer, all the support will come to us. So, and I would, if I look at myself as a younger version right now, right, I would just say everything will be all right. There is like the light at the end of the tunnel, which I did not see at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, hey, keep moving. It'll all be
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, Oksana, this has been a great conversation. Appreciate you coming on. So, what's the best way like the audience can connect with you or get to know a little bit more about you?
So I have two different websites. One of my website is Sacred Apex, like Sacred and APEX, Sacred Apex. And the second website is Quantum Leap to Success. And this website is spelled Quantum Leap to, like TOO, success.
Awesome. Awesome. Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anything else you
Thank you
want to
so
leave
much.
leave for the audience on?
Well, I'm wishing everybody to create the most beautiful and fulfilling life because it's absolutely within everybody's reach. And I would like to recommend everybody to stop doubting themselves and just ask their own intuition. What can they do today to transform and expand? Because the more that they ask their own intuition, the more the answers will come and their own unique path will be revealed to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome stuff. And my piece of advice to even attach on to that is just make sure you're slowing down enough to hear that prompting, right? Especially in our culture, is making sure you slow down enough so you can hear that prompting and know what changes you need to make.
Slow down the mental activity, right?
Yeah, that speed, that distraction, all that stuff.
That's true.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's the biggest pleasure to being at your show.
Yep. Oksana, I appreciate you guys. And listener, we will catch you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found it valuable, please rate, review, and share it. That is the best way to help us build this and reach more people, as we're trying to accomplish our goal of help creating more healthy, wealthy, and wise entrepreneurs. You can follow us on social media by searching for me, Peyton Squires, or going to PeytonSquires.com. On the website and social media, we're always sharing tips of personal growth, and there we can actually interact. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.